Imagine this. You have just hit record high revenue, right? Your appointment books are, they are packed for the next 6 months. You are opening your third location. On paper, you are an absolute rock star.
Yeah, on paper being the key word there.
Exactly, because when you actually look at the bank accounts, your profit margins are shrinking. You are working harder than you ever have, generating way more cash, and somehow keeping less of it.
Right. It is the ultimate entrepreneurial paradox. The very things that, made you successful in the beginning are now actively suffocating your growth.
Welcome to the Minted CEO. We have a really special deep dive tailored just for you today. If you are an ambitious learner trying to navigate that chaotic, unpredictable middle ground of business growth, we are going to unpack exactly why that paradox happens.
Because it happens to almost everyone who tries to scale.
Totally. So today, our mission is to extract a survival blueprint for founders who have basically slammed headfirst into this operational glass ceiling. And we are pulling all of this from an incredibly detailed article titled The Messy Middle: How to Handle Dental Group Expansion Without Selling Your Practice Soul to a DSO by Ashley Boaz.
And we should probably establish right up front, while the article focuses heavily on the clinical world of dentistry, the mechanics of this, this messy middle, they apply to almost any scaling business.
Right. It really does not matter the industry.
No, not at all. Whether you own a chain of veterinary clinics or, the boutique creative agency or a local plumbing empire, the physics of scaling are identical.
You are transitioning from being a doer, right?
Yeah, the person whose physical hands execute the core service.
To a leader who actually engineers an enterprise. And that transition is, it is brutal.
Brutal is exactly the right word. The article paints this really vivid picture of a founder who thinks scaling is just multiplication.
Like, I built a great solo practice, so I will just buy a second location.
Right, and then a third. But it does not multiply, it fractures. Suddenly you aren't just dealing with a single broken chair in one office.
Oh man, you have mismatched software platforms across completely different zip codes.
Exactly. You have front desk teams who have literally never met each other doing billing in completely different ways.
And because you don't have that actual corporate infrastructure, the friction of all those fractured systems just eats all your new revenue.
It eats everything. You hit this wall of profound exhaustion. And, when founders reach this specific stage of burnout, they become incredibly vulnerable.
Vulnerable to the corporate savior, as the article puts it.
Yes. And in this industry, that savior is the DSO, which stands for Dental Service Organization.
Let's spell that out really clearly for everyone. DSO, Dental Service Organization. These are basically private equity-backed groups that buy up independent practices, right?
That is exactly what they are.
And honestly, I can completely understand the appeal. If I am drowning in regional HR drama and payroll glitches, and a DSO comes along and says, hey, we will give you a massive check, we will take over all the administrative headaches, and you can just go back to doing what you love.
It sounds like a dream.
Right. Like, why wouldn't I take that deal?
Well, because that pitch is basically a boardroom fantasy. The reality of selling to a DSO involves heavy, often devastating trade-offs.
Yeah, the article really goes in on those hidden costs.
It does. And it starts with a total loss of clinical autonomy. The contract you sign might explicitly say you retain control over patient care, but, you have to look at the underlying economic engine.
Because private equity has to deliver specific returns to their institutional investors.
Exactly. So the spreadsheets start quietly dictating the medicine. When corporate decides they need a 20% margin, they suddenly dictate which dental labs you can use.
Wow.
Yeah, they restrict the quality of the composites and supplies you can order, and they compress your scheduling cadence.
So you are suddenly told you only have 15 minutes for a procedure that you, as the doctor, know actually requires 30.
Right. Your clinical integrity is now completely subordinate to a corporate earnings report.
That is terrifying. And it bleeds into the culture too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The whole reason these independent practices become valuable targets in the first place is their community feel.
Right. The patients trust the founder. They know the staff.
But the second a DSO takes over, they impose these rigid, standardized metrics. They change the branding, they change the billing policies.
Which just completely alienates the legacy staff and the long-term patients.
Yeah. But honestly, the most sobering reality check the article provides is about the money itself. The golden handcuffs.
The earnouts. This is the part that I think completely changes the math of selling. Because people think you just get a giant briefcase of cash and walk away to a beach somewhere.
Not even close. A massive portion of that buyout money is tied up in multi-year employment contracts and really aggressive performance milestones.
To earnouts.
Right, earnouts. They hold your payout in escrow. So think about it. If the culture tanks under the new corporate rules and your associate doctors quit, what happens?
Your production plummets.
Exactly. And when that happens, you miss your earnout targets, and you forfeit a massive chunk of the money you supposedly sold your life's work for.
Wow. It is kind of like, think about selling a custom-built house that you poured your entire soul into, right?
Okay.
You sell it to this massive corporate flipping company.
Mm.
But the catch is, the contract says you still have to live in the basement for 3 years.
Oh, that is a great way to put it.
And you have to hit a quota of house repairs every single month just to get paid. And they get to dictate what color you paint the walls upstairs. Like, you gave them the keys, but you are trapped inside your own basement.
That is a perfect analogy. You are trapped. And this brings us to the central thesis we are exploring today. You do not have to hand over your legacy to access that operational efficiency. The systems that corporate DSOs use to scale and eliminate all those headaches, they aren't magic. They are just standard corporate infrastructure.
But to build that infrastructure yourself, the article says you have to overcome 3 massive pitfalls. So let's dive right into the first one, which it calls the double jeopardy leadership trap.
Yes, the double jeopardy leadership trap.
If selling out isn't the answer, why do so many smart, capable founders fail when they try to scale independently?
Because they completely misallocate their most precious resource, their time.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Let's look at the physics of a solo practice. The founder's hands literally print the money, right?
Right, they are doing the work.
But when you expand, this dangerous split occurs. The founder tries to be a full-time clinician 3 days a week and a full-time CEO the other 2 days.
But wait, I have to push back here. If my hands are the money printer and I step away to do CEO work, my revenue drops immediately. I mean, I have a mortgage, I have payroll. How can a founder justify stepping out of the chair if it means an immediate hit to cash flow?
That is the exact fear that keeps founders trapped. It really is.
Yeah.
But you have to look at the math of trying to do both.
Okay.
You're trying to drill teeth on Monday and then, negotiate regional vendor contracts or interview front desk candidates on Tuesday.
Right.
What actually happens is you do a mediocre job at both. The context switching just destroys your efficiency.
So your clinical production drops anyway.
Exactly, because your mind is distracted by an HR emergency at location number 2. And your business operations stagnate, because when a massive strategic issue arises on a Wednesday, the CEO is physically tied to a dental chair for 8 hours with a drill in their hand, literally unable to answer the phone.
Wow. You essentially have a part-time distracted clinician and a part-time distracted CEO.
Which is a complete recipe for a plateau. You simply cannot chairside produce your way to an independent, multi-location enterprise. It requires a massive paradigm shift.
And the article insists on a calculated, intentional step-down plan, right?
Yes. And the very first step is a brutal audit of your time.
Calculating your highest and best use.
Yes. Highest and best use. You have to track every single hour of your week and categorize it. Is this clinical production? Is this daily operations? Or is this strategic growth?
Right.
If your growing group is now generating, say, $5 million in collective revenue, your time is incredibly valuable.
So if you are spending an hour troubleshooting a jammed printer in the break room,
Or haggling with a supply rep over the price of cotton rolls.
yeah, you are committing a catastrophic waste of executive capital.
Exactly.
I mean, if you are listening to this right now, whether you are in dentistry, tech, retail, whatever, look at your calendar for this week.
Seriously, look at it.
How many hours are blocked off for tasks you could easily pay someone $15 an hour to do? We all do it.
We do. Because it is comfortable.
Right, or because we like the immediate satisfaction of fixing a tangible problem. But hiding in those comfortable $15 an hour tasks is quietly killing your company's ability to scale. You should be doing the uncomfortable $500 an hour strategic thinking.
And we really have to acknowledge the psychology of why that is so hard.
Oh, the identity crisis.
Yeah. For a highly trained technician, stepping away from the craft creates a profound identity crisis.
Yeah.
You went to school for a decade to master this specific skill.
Your entire professional self-worth is tied to it,
Exactly. When you aren't doing it, you literally feel like you aren't working.
which creates a massive vacuum. So let's say the founder actually does this. They survive the identity crisis, they step out of the clinical chair, and they put on the CEO hat.
Okay.
That instantly triggers the second major pitfall the article identifies, which is the associate dentist revolving door. Because, well, someone still has to treat the patients.
Right. And this is exactly where independent expansion usually collapses. An independent group is only as strong as its clinical talent.
So when founders step back, they usually hire associate doctors to fill the void.
Yes, but they treat these highly trained doctors simply as high-end employees. They pay them a standard market rate.
And the article notes this is usually 28 to 32% of their production, right?
Yeah, 28 to 32%.
Yeah.
But they offer zero mentorship, no input on how the clinic is actually run, and they just expect these associates to grind away and build the founder's personal wealth.
And what happens?
The data shows us a brutal reality. Under those standard conditions, you are going to lose that associate in 18 to 24 months.
Wow, that fast.
Yes, they hit a skill plateau, they hit an income plateau, and they realize they are just a cog in your machine.
Yeah.
So they leave to start their own practice or, join a competitor.
And when they leave, it is a localized disaster. Patients leave because they trusted that specific doctor. Production plummets.
And suddenly the founder is yanked right back out of the CEO office and thrown back into the operatory to stop the bleeding.
It completely resets all their strategic progress.
To break that churn cycle, independent founders have to structurally outbehave the corporate DSOs. They have to offer something that private equity fundamentally refuses to offer at the local level.
Okay, and this is the part of the article I found absolutely fascinating. The solution is the PGP, the private group practice model.
Yes, the PGP.
Let's explicitly spell that out. PGP, private group practice model. And the engine of the PGP is this earn-in equity pathway.
Exactly. Instead of treating doctors as perpetual employees, you offer them a legally structured path to actual ownership.
It changes the entire dynamic.
It really does. The mechanics involve creating a structured 3 to 5 year framework.
Okay.
If an associate hits specific performance metrics, adopts your clinical standards, and proves they are a cultural fit, they earn or they can buy a minority equity stake in the specific location where they practice.
And that stake is usually between 10 and 49%, right?
Right, usually between 10 to 49%.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
If I am the founder, I took all the initial financial risk. I signed the lease, I bought the equipment, I built the brand from scratch. Why on earth would I just hand over up to 49% of my location to a junior doctor who has only been here a few years? That sounds like I am just giving away my own money.
It totally feels like that.
Yeah.
Until you look at the behavioral economics of ownership.
Yeah.
Yes, you are giving up a percentage, but you're giving up a percentage of a pie that is about to grow exponentially. Think about the mindset shift. When a salaried employee becomes a localized partner, their entire worldview changes overnight.
Because they aren't just building your wealth anymore, they are building their own.
Exactly. When they have real, tangible equity, suddenly they care deeply about supply waste.
Okay.
They care if the front desk is effectively following up on unscheduled treatment plans. They care about team accountability and patient retention. They start acting like an owner because they are one.
And most importantly, they stay.
Yes. You secure permanent operational stability at that location, which frees you up to go acquire the next one.
It makes me think of rental cars.
Rental cars.
Yeah, I mean, nobody washes a rental car before they return it to the airport. Right, why would you? You don't own it, you are just using it for a few days.
That is so true.
If there is a weird knocking sound in the engine, you don't care, it is not your problem. But the moment you hand that associate the title to the vehicle, suddenly they care very much about changing the oil and keeping the engine pristine. You have to give them the keys.
That is a fantastic way to look at it. But even if you solve the talent issue with a private group practice equity model, you are still going to bleed cash if you don't fix the underlying infrastructure.
Which brings us to the third major pitfall: overhead bleed and decentralized chaos.
Right. Because you can have highly motivated equity partners, but if the underlying day-to-day operations of the business are a complete mess, the profits just evaporate.
The article points out that many founders don't actually own a cohesive group. What they actually own are 3 or 4 completely isolated islands that just happen to share a single bank account.
And that decentralization is a recipe for massive overhead bleed. Let's look at how this happens.
Okay.
Location A is using one type of practice management software, while location B across town is using something entirely different because they bought an existing practice and never migrated the tech.
Oh, what a nightmare.
Location A is ordering supplies from Henry Schein. Location B is using Patterson. You have front desk teams at every single office doing insurance verification, billing, and answering phones using completely different localized protocols.
So you are paying for redundant administrative staff at every single physical location.
Yes, you are completely failing to leverage any economies of scale. And because the tech is mismatched, you can't even pull standardized metrics to see where the cash is actually leaking.
To survive that, the founder has to transition into a DMO framework, right? A dental management organization.
Exactly. This requires aggressive centralization. You have to physically pull all non-clinical operations out of the individual clinics.
So billing, insurance verification, accounts receivable, payroll, marketing.
None of that should be happening at the front desk of a clinic. You centralize it into a single administrative hub, or you outsource it to specialized networks.
Which means the staff actually inside the clinic can focus 100% on the patient experience instead of, fighting with insurance companies on hold.
Right, and you have to standardize the tech stack. Every location must be forced onto the exact same cloud-based software.
That way, as the CEO, you can open a single dashboard in the morning and track the health of the entire organization in real time.
Exactly. But as important as centralization is, there is a heavier hitter here.
The ultimate weapon.
Yes, the ultimate weapon the article mentions for leveling the playing field with the massive corporate DSOs.
The GPO, Group Purchasing Organization.
Yes. We need to explain exactly how a GPO works because the numbers attached to this are just staggering.
Okay, let's break it down.
Let's look at supply chain economics. One of the main reasons corporate DSOs are so insanely profitable is because they command massive discounts on dental supplies, lab fees, heavy equipment.
Because of their size.
Right. They can go to a supplier and say, hey, we have 500 locations, give us your absolute floor pricing. An independent founder with 3 locations simply does not have the volume to negotiate those rates. They pay retail.
But by joining a dental group purchasing organization, you instantly bypass that limitation.
Exactly. You are pooling your purchasing volume with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of other independent dentists across the country.
And because of that pooled volume, the suppliers agree to slash their prices to secure the massive collective contract. And the article is incredibly specific about the impact here. It corrects a lot of industry misconceptions and states definitively independent groups can instantly secure corporate-level pricing that results in exactly 10 to 25% savings on overhead.
That is right. Exactly 10 to 25%.
I really want to isolate that number for everyone listening. Exactly 10 to 25% overhead savings. Think about what that actually looks like in a monthly budget.
It is huge.
If you are spending $50,000 a month on clinical supplies and lab fees across your locations, a 20% savings means you are instantly keeping an extra $10,000 a month in pure profit.
$120,000 a year.
And you achieve that simply by routing your purchases through a GPO without giving up a single ounce of your business ownership.
That 10 to 25% savings falls directly to your bottom line. It entirely neutralizes one of the biggest economic advantages the private equity groups hold over you.
Okay, so let's take a breath and look at the blueprint we have built here. We know the what.
Right.
We need to audit our time to escape the double jeopardy trap. We need to offer an earn-in equity pathway and a PGP model to keep our talent. We need to centralize our billing hub, and we need to use a GPO to grab that 10 to 25% savings.
Right.
But here is the multi-million-dollar reality check. How does a highly trained clinician suddenly become an expert in organizational design, supply chain logistics, and advanced conflict resolution?
They don't. And honestly, they shouldn't try to on their own. The article highlights a brilliant, somewhat painful truth about the educational gap here.
What does it say?
It bluntly states you learned how to save teeth, not advanced conflict resolution or corporate finance.
Wow.
You have a doctorate in clinical care, not an MBA in scaling enterprises.
Which perfectly transitions into the final critical piece of the puzzle, the role of the professional business coach.
Yeah.
You can't just read an article or listen to a deep dive and suddenly know how to restructure a multi-million-dollar company.
No, you really can't.
The article specifically points to coaching groups, like Mint Conceptions, as vital assets.
Yeah.
But I want to clarify something. We aren't talking about a cheerleader who just tells you to work harder and manifest success.
No. A skilled business coach in this context acts as a corporate architect. They pull the founder out of the day-to-day chaos of the operatory and force them to look at the organization through an executive lens.
Right.
And one of the most vital shifts a coach facilitates is moving the founder entirely past vanity metrics.
Ugh. Vanity metrics, like gross production.
Yes.
It feels amazing to stand up at a team meeting and say, we produced $10 million this year. But if your overhead, your decentralized bloat, and your supply costs ate up 9.9 million of that, well, you are functionally failing.
Precisely why a coach redirects your focus to healthy business vitals, and the absolute most important of which is EBITDA.
Let's make sure we spell that one out clearly for everyone taking notes. EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Thank you. And why does EBITDA matter so much more than gross revenue? Because EBITDA measures the actual operational cash flow your business generates from its core operations.
Okay.
It strips away the noise of financing and taxes to show you the true health of the machine. By focusing on EBITDA, along with tracking unallocated corporate overhead, a coach teaches the CEO to spot operational leaks months before they actually threaten the payroll account.
And a coach also helps build formal accountability charts, right? Because as you scale from one location to 3 or 4, simple job descriptions completely fail.
They do.
You can't just say, Sarah handles the front. You need a formal organizational chart that dictates exactly who owns specific corporate outcomes, who owns procurement, who owns clinical compliance across all 3 zip codes.
Right.
Yeah.
When you have clear accountability, the team stops dropping balls,
Yeah.
and you stop having to micromanage.
If we synthesize the core philosophy of everything we have unpacked today, it really comes down to a shift in perspective.
It really does.
The operational friction you are experiencing right now in the messy middle, the HR headaches, the shrinking margins, the exhaustion, it does not mean your business is fundamentally broken.
No.
And it certainly does not mean your only option is to throw in the towel and sell to a private equity-backed DSO.
It just means you have outgrown your current leadership structure. The clothes just don't fit anymore.
Exactly. You have to centralize your operations into a true DMO. You have to utilize a GPO to capture that vital 10 to 25% in savings.
You have to offer real, tangible equity through a private group practice model to retain your best people.
And you have to engage a coach to help you build the new framework while you are still living inside the business.
It is entirely possible to achieve the scale, the wealth, and the freedom you set out to build, all while preserving your clinical integrity and protecting the staff who actually helped you get there.
Autonomy is absolutely worth fighting for. Your legacy matters. You built this thing from the ground up. You should be the one to steer it into the future.
It is a really inspiring blueprint. But as we wrap up, this raises a deeply provocative question that I think we should leave you to ponder.
Oh, I love these.
If the ultimate goal of the private group practice model is to utilize all these corporate-level efficiencies,
Yeah.
Centralized administrative hubs, standardized tech, aggressive EBITDA tracking, to outcompete the corporate DSOs,
Right.
at what point does a fiercely independent practice become so heavily systemized that it risks losing the very localized family feel culture it fought so hard to protect in the first place?
Oh, wow. That is a fantastic tension to think about. How do you implement ruthless corporate efficiency without losing your soul in the process? We will leave you to chew on that one. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Minted CEO. Until next time, keep building your legacy, and we will see you on the next deep dive.